Radhe Radhe. Today is Saturday, 10th June 2023, and here we are for our recap video for this Bhagavad Gita recitation series for chapter 9. Today we were able to conclude the chapter in terms of the verses. So the final 4 verses, we'll talk about them very, very shortly. But first up, here along with me for this recap video is Mummy.
Radhe Radhe.
Up on the screen now, we're going to see our cover slide for the presentation, and note that we covered chapter 9 verses 31, 32, 33, and 34. As always, let's listen to one round of rendition of these verses, then learn some important Sanskrit words, then have a quick run through of the explanation, and then one more round of chanting and recitation. So here we go with chapter 9, verse 31 and beyond.
Akshipram bhavati dharmatma shashvat shantim nigacchati kaunteya pratijanihi name bhaktah pranashyati mam hi partha vyapashritya ye pisyuf papayonayaha स्त्रियो वैश्यास्तथा शूद्रः तेऽपि यान्ति परां गतिम् किं पुनर्ब्राह्मणाः पुण्या भक्ता राजर्षयस्तथा अनित्यम् असुखं लोकम् इमं प्राप्य भजस्व माम् मन्मना भव मद्भक्तो मद्याजी मां नमस्कुरु मां एवेष्यसि युक्तवैवम् आत्मानं मत्परायणः ॐ तत्सद् इति श्रीमद्भगवद्गीतासु उपनिषत्सु ब्रह्मविद्यायां योगशास्त्रे श्रीकृष्ण अर्जुन संवादे राजविद्या योगो नाम नवमोऽध्यायः सर्वं श्रीकृष्ण अर्पणमस्तु हरिः ओम्. So we finished all the last four verses, and after that I sang the concluding verse for the chapter 9. Now let's look at one important word each from each verse. So first verse 31, look at the word Shashvat Shantim. Shashvat Shantim means everlasting peace. Then verse number 32, look at the word Vyapashritya. Vyapashritya means take refuge. So basically, when we surrender to God, when we take shelter in God, then we get Shashvat Shantim, we get lasting peace. Now let's look at verse number 33. So there is another word, Anityam. Anitya means transient. This world is transient. And Anityam, when we put a in front of Nityam, it becomes the opposite. Nityam is something which is eternal. So let's look at the word, verse number 34. And there is a word Namaskuru, which is very common from Namaskar. We use that word very often. So Namaskuru, here Krishna is saying that always keep me in mind and offer obeisances all the time. Pray to God, keep him in your mind. With that, over to you, Gagan.
Thank you, Mummy. So yeah, let's take a look at brief explanations for each of these verses. Chapter 9, verse 31, the catchphrase here is as a question, devotee's declaration. We must remember that last week when we covered the prior 5 verses, so toward the end, we were talking about the vilest of sinners, how Sri Krishna says that even they can become virtuous simply with faith and devotion to Sri Krishna. So now Sri Krishna here says that indeed exclusive devotion with that unflinching faith in God, in Him, will lead to purification of the mind and the heart and development of saintly virtues even for the vilest of sinners. And it's a very bold declaration, of course, but he makes it only for a devotee, not for a jnani or a karmi. And then he in fact asks Arjun to state that declaration. So the question is it really a devotee's declaration? In fact, it's kind of both. It's Sri Krishna's declaration, but he's making his devotee Arjun say it, because as Swamiji presents in the commentary, the story of Sri Krishna and Bhishma in the war, when Bhishma had said he would either slay Arjun or make Sri Krishna pick up weapons. Sri Krishna indeed picked up weapons, or at least the wheel of the chariot, and that was to protect Bhishma's vow, Bhishma being a very, very great devotee of Sri Krishna. So likewise here, Sri Krishna encourages Arjun to state this declaration, so that Arjun's vow, and in fact for us as devotees, our vows will be protected by Sri Krishna. Next up, chapter 9, verse 32, before moving to the slide, it is Sri Krishna talking about everyone regardless of birth, background, etc., being able to take refuge in Him and then attaining that supreme destination. Therefore, if it's like a ship sailing across this material ocean, getting over to the transcendental side of God's realm, I think we should say all aboard. So Sri Krishna says all aboard, that the current birth we all have individually is based on past karmas or past sins. Therefore, some people are born in virtuous or pious families, some are born in families of atheists. As Swamiji presents in the commentary, if you want to follow the path of JKYog or Karma Kand or Ashtanga Yoga or Hatha Yoga, just as a few examples, there are such strict requirements. You need to have these 6 elements in place. You need to be seated without moving, etc. But for Sri Krishna, for us to take refuge in Him, all we need is love, purity of heart and mind. And Sri Krishna says, doesn't matter who you are, and there are no strict requirements. Just have that devotion and that surrender to God, and He will certainly let everyone follow the path of devotion. With that, then he progresses in chapter 9, verse 33, catchphrase here being of kings and sages, saying that if even the vilest of sinners can quickly become virtuous through devotion and faith in God, then why not, obviously, what more can qualified souls like kings and sages with meritorious deeds achieve? And this is purposely done to remind Arjun that he also has the blessings of being born into a kingly family. So again, to remind him and to perk him up, Sri Krishna is saying, you've got that eligibility, the criteria in terms of the background here, and everyone's welcome on that path of devotion. Arjun, likewise, you can also take shelter and rapidly reach God's realm. So that is in terms of context, which sometimes Sri Krishna does through appellations, Kwanteya, Parth, etc. Here, he's doing it by saying, well, what about a comparison or a reminder to kings and saints? And finally, the concluding verse of chapter 9, verse 34, as Mummy said, a very, very beautiful but important one. Catchphrase here is devotee's dedication. The dedication Sri Krishna simply asks for is of the body, mind, and soul to Sri Krishna. So thus far, all along in chapter 9, Sri Krishna has stressed on the path of bhakti. And again, in this Leela, Arjun is a devotee, but in case he's ever forgotten or he's made to forget, it is again Sri Krishna telling him to reconsider. What about being a devotee for Sri Krishna? And therefore, with that purity of heart, there is no doubt, Sri Krishna says, with that complete connection to Him and essentially having freedom from pride. So no pride, no egotism. Sri Krishna says those devotees shall certainly come to Him. With that, let's listen to these 4 verses and the concluding prayer one more time.
Thank you, Gagan. And we start from verse 31. Kshipram bhavati dharmatma shashvachantim nigacchati kaunteya pratijanihi name bhaktav pranashyati mam hi partha vyapashritya yepi syuh papayonayah स्त्रियो वैश्यास्तथा शूद्रः तेऽपि यान्ति परां गतिम् किं पुनर्ब्रह्मणाः पुण्या भक्ता राजर्षयस्तथा अनित्यम् असुखं लोकम् इमं प्राप्य भजस्व माम् मन्मना भव मद्भक्तो मद्याजी मां नमस्कुरु माम् एवैष्यसि युक्तवैवम् आत्मानं मत्परायणः ॐ तत्सद् इति श्रीमद्भगवद्गीतासु उपनिषत्सु ब्रह्मविद्यायां योगशास्त्रे श्रीकृष्ण अर्जुन संवादे राजविद्या योगो नाम नवमोऽध्यायः सर्वं श्रीकृष्ण अर्पणमस्तु हरिः ओम्. So hope it helps you for revision of these 4 verses along with the concluding verse. So with that, over to you, Gagan.
Thank you again, Mummy. And indeed, yes, the concluding verses for chapter 9, and of course, the closing prayer, as with every chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. So we look forward to meeting next week, same time, same place. That's Saturday, 17th June, 2023, 11 a.m. Central Time in Dallas, Texas, 9:30 p.m. in India. Small request, only 34 verses to practice, right? 6 or more days ahead for everyone to go through these various recap videos and slides. The playlist is available for you. All the slides and other reference material are also available. As always, please take a look at the description of this video and go to the community portal, the very, very first link. And as always, then, happy studying. When we meet next week, we shall have different volunteers go through 1 or more verses of the entire chapter, chapter 9 again. Till then, thank you so much. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.